Kanda, also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Coming up this evening, Elections Committee of the New Patriotic Party reschedules balloting for the November 4 presidential primary to allow for a resolution of outstanding concerns with the Super Delegates Conference. We have details of that shortly.
We have agreed to proceed with the guidelines. And like I said, when we are done, we would again serve you notice of the guidelines. And soon thereafter, we'll proceed with the balloting.
Meanwhile, a former NPP chairman, national chairman Peter McMahon says the party stands resolute in spite of Alan Chimantin's withdrawal from the flag bearer race. We'll bring you details of that shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, plus some analyst views and analysis of the impact of Alan Chimantin's decision on the NPP as a political party's fortunes going into the 2024 general election. So stay with us as well this evening. That's the NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama calls on the Electoral Commission to publish the names and pictures of electoral officers to be deployed for the limited voter registration exercise. We have details of that, plus the latest in business, sports, and entertainment coming over the next 60 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Remember, we're also live all across the world on 3news.com. We are streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, live at 3FM 927. You can log on to these platforms, that's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, to follow the program live, and also share your thoughts with us on the issues we're going to be talking about, read out to you and to the rest of the world. Let's get into the details now. I am Alfred Ocansey. First, the Electoral Committee of the NPP has rescheduled the balloting for the flag bearer aspirants until the committee has resolved outstanding concerns with the Super Delegates Conference, which took place a couple of weeks ago. Now, after a meeting earlier today, spokesperson of the committee, Alexander Penyomaking, indicated that the committee will incorporate proposals from the aspirants before releasing its final report. 4 aspirants are in the race to lead the NPP into the 2024 presidential elections after Alan Chimantin pulled out of the November 4 contest. Now, my colleague Duke Mensopoko sat through this particular, observing the meeting earlier today and giving us updates of what's happening. He's joining us in the studio. Duke, what happened earlier today at this meeting?
So we went for the meeting expecting a balloting process or procedure to ensue, so that we would know where how the aspirants will line up, basically in the run. On November 4th, on the ballot sheet or on the ballot paper or on the ballot screen, depending on how they vote. Only for us to be met with a crucial meeting that took place for over 5 hours. So in this meeting, there was Kennedy Japan, he was there himself. There was Dr. Uswe Akoto, he was there himself. There was Mr. Fred Owari, he was representing the Vice President, Dr. Bamia, and then there was a representative of Adainimo. These people met the Electoral Committee of the New Patriotic Party, and the Electoral Commission itself was there. Dr. Siubo Kweku was there. The meeting was chaired by Professor Michael Aaron Okwe. Now, they didn't tell us what ensued. They just gave us a generic appreciation of what happened. But our sources within the meeting told us that Kennedy Japan was the most vociferous in that meeting.
Why is that?
Because he had concerns to be addressed, and he made 3 demands, not proposals.
What were the demands?
Number 1, he is demanding quashing or a scrapping of the referral made to the disciplinary committee regarding his conduct or misconduct. If you want to refer to the NPP's constitution in Article 10.7, which talks about misconduct, which is what he's been charged with. He wants that referral to be scrapped. That's number 1. 2, he wants a strong condemnation from the party in relation to the intimidation of his polling agents and all pockets of intimidation and acts of skirmishes and violence that escalated or that took place during the 26th August election. Thirdly, he wants a rescission of the decision by the National Council to allow government appointees to be polling agents on the day of the election, which is November 4th.
He wants all these three.
He wants all these three.
His demands he is making.
These are demands that he made at the committee. And we are told he sort of got some, backing from the other three in relation to these issues. Bar the disciplinary matter, but for the other two, he had the support of Dr. Akoto.
That is the government appointees being allowed to act as polling agents. Says that they are not in agreement with. Plus they are in agreement with that one. That's the rest of the two. What they were ambivalent about was a matter of his own disciplinary proceedings. That one. But for the violent and then the polling agent, they believe it concerns them. Dr. Akoto came out, his posturing indicated that I'm not a body reader or a psychologist, but it was apparent from his body language that he wasn't too happy. Kenneth Japan, he was whisked away. What I mean is that all the aspirants use a certain entrance to get into their cars, but he used a back entrance. Apparently and after the meeting, the committee ensured that nobody spoke to the media. For instance, the aide of Dr. Akoto Afriye wanted to engage the media on the concerns that they had, but he was forcefully impressed upon by Alexander Fenyo-Markin, spokesperson of the committee, not to engage the media. In fact, he started granting an interview. Fenyo-Markin shouted from the rooftop and said, "Don't do that, I've told you." And he was, I don't want to use the word cajoled, but he was called to a meeting, after which he came and he told the media that he won't continue with the interview. So they've tried as much as possible to keep the issues within. Nobody mentioned the specific issues, but of course, trust us, we would always go every length to get the issues for you. So these are the issues. I see.
Afenwaki indicated that they would try and incorporate these proposals. So the balloting that didn't happen, or rather it turned into a meeting to resolve grievances.
Well, was there any indication that Alan Chimantin's decision to withdraw from the race was one of the issues that they talked about?
Right. So he said that the committee and indeed the party had accepted Alan Chimantin's decision without prejudice. Those were his words. Without prejudice, they had accepted that, and they would look into it. He says it's unfortunate that the matters in issue that were raised are issues that the party was already dealing with. The disciplinary issues, the matters of intimidation, all these are issues that are being investigated. So he thought Alan, but of course, he says they are happy that Alan has not said that he has resigned from the party. He's still a party man. He has every right to express his pleasure with processes if he thinks so. And what they would do is that, they will work with him to try and resolve those issues, even though he's no more a candidate. I asked him a question about if they'll request further information from Alan or even request to meet him, even though it's not. But he kept mum on that issue. So the Alan matter came up. And the last thing he spoke about was a plea, for want of a better word, to all aspirants and to their supporters to act in a manner that will unite the party rather than to divide the party. And that the enemy is not the enemy within. The enemy is the NDC machine that is hungry for power in 2024.
Let's take a listen to Alexander Fenyo-Markin on this.
The committee will issue its full report, and on this make the report known to the public after due consultation with stakeholders in the party. We have also received the withdrawal letter officially by Honorable Chimantin, and the party has accepted the withdrawal without prejudice. At this point, we as a committee would like to again remind all party members that this is an internal contest. There is no loser, there is no winner. We need to put our house in order to face the NDC come 2024. So we would urge party members to help their own party by way of their conduct. There is no need in using social media platforms to cast aspersions, insinuate, attack personalities, and all. We also urge aspirants to continue to use due process to address their concerns. they should let their followers know that if they have issues, they should channel them to the elections committee. That is why we are here. And we have been meeting and listening, taking notes, hearing people, and we will not resolve on that responsibility. So we want to give them that assurance. There is therefore no need for anybody to take the law into his or her own hands, to say things and to do things that will hurt the interests of the party. We have only one MPP.
Well, that's Alexander Fenyama-King, who speaks for the election committee of the NPP. But beyond that, he also gave indication of what was said or discussed in this said meeting with the other flag bearer aspirants who are also contesting now in this earlier meeting. He indicated that the issues that were raised, including the demands that Kenya Japan is reported to have made, were all discussed, but there was no clear indication of whether those demands of Kenya Japan were granted or not. Take a listen to Fenyama-King's.
We have met them, as I said. We've listened to them. We've heard them. We shall come out with our reports. And the engagement was fruitful. I mean, each time we met, the issues raised were all addressed. It's been that cordial. And I'm saying that we continue to encourage them to use the elections committee platform for their concerns to be addressed. And in doing, yes.
He said that you accept the withdrawal letter without prejudice. In this same letter, he says the elections you conducted were skewed to the favor of a particular candidate.
You see, when I said without prejudice, it's as simple as that. So far, those who have concerns have brought the concerns to us. Mr. Chairman, for the time being, hasn't said he's not a member of the party. He hasn't said so. So now that we've received his withdrawal letter, we will now wait for him to bring us some additional information, if he so desire, to furnish us with additional information regarding some of the concerns that he has raised. So we are waiting.
Would you request for that?
Would he be replaced? Because you need 5.
No, the constitution hasn't said so. If somebody,
just for purpose of clarity here.
You said you agreed with the electoral commission on some decisions going to November.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
What is it?
I didn't say that. You pay attention to me. You are.
Alan Chairman.
What I said was that in the discussions today with EC and aspirants and their reps, we deliberated on some proposals aimed at incorporating same in the guidelines.
Can you share these proposals with us?
When we are done with everything, we'll make known to you in full the guidelines for the November 4th elections, like we did previously in the superdelegate process. We shared the guidelines with you. Okay, so again, we assure you, that's why you're here. We don't want to waste your time. We don't want you to come and not get any information. It's part of the bona fides of democracy to work with the media, and we will continue to share relevant information with you.
So that's Alexander Fenyama-King. He speaks for the election committee of the New Patriotic Party there. And a bit more on this, because the NPP has rejected the claims made by Alan Chairman for his withdrawal from the flag bearership race of the party. Alan Chairman, if you recall, who emerged third in the special delegates conference, was expected to be one of the 5 candidates participating in the November 4 presidential primaries. However, he withdrew from the polls, citing alleged intimidation of his supporters and manipulation of the election in favor of one candidate, and then also inducement. Now, these are the issues. But even though the election committee says they are looking into Alan Chimantin's concerns, in response to this, the Deputy General Secretary of the MPP, Haruna Mohammed, has actually dismissed Alan Chimantin's claims, even though the election committee of the party is looking into it and is yet to release any report on whether or not Alan Chimantin's claims are valid or otherwise. But a founding member of the NPP, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, has urged Alan Chimantin to consider contesting the 2024 elections as an independent candidate. He spoke earlier today on New Day on TV3.
Alan could have been. Alan should have even resigned early. I told him.
You told him?
He heard about it. If he had left earlier, because he was a cabinet minister and he knew about the infractions going on. All sort of things being done. If I were Alan, I would have resigned on principle. And this would have been easier for him today. That he has got the style of my friend J. Kufuor. You go about it gently. Kufuor was also very smart. And he was able to maneuver his way to get to where he got to. But if Alan has stepped down now from the race, I think his intention is, unless he doesn't want to be leader of this country again, he should go and test his popularity.
How?
By standing as an independent candidate. I say he should do that to test his popularity, national popularity. He should stand as an independent candidate, and he will see. Through that, he will see. Because a lot of money has been wasted through this election. We know it. When they come to defend, I laugh. Monies have been spent, huge amounts of money. Huge. I mean, it's such a disgrace. So it's the highest bidder who wins an election in this country now. When an individual can be bought for 500,000 cedis, nobody should come and ask me, where did I hear that from? It is a fact. So the highest bidder wins an election in this country, and that is the end of the country, because he has to get the money and send it back to where he picked it from. And that is one sad thing that has been happening to this poor nation all the time. If you watch carefully during an election time, our economy is always sinking, or after election.
That's Nyaho Tamaklo there, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, talking about the impact of the increasing monocracy in our democracy. And he says that that's one of the major reasons why Alan Chimantin withdrew from this, because of the money that was spent by one candidate in the Special Delegates Congress. He also lays another blame squarely at the doorstep of President Akufo-Addo for what he says has, in his conduct, has not done well to help the NPP.
Of the reasons why I broke a relationship with the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, was as a result of that behavior. But to me, that was a test of his democratic credentials at that time. If you have had an election, it's elected. These people were elected, not appointed. If you have had election. Now, before the election, various moves were made to disqualify Afoko. I don't know Afoko from anywhere. I just heard of him. I kept asking myself, who is this young man who is so strong? Then I got the information about the role his father played in our party. I said, okay. Now, finally, Afoko won. Initially, the same problems also went to Kobna and Japan. When we had elections in Tamale, these three people won hands down. And that was where the problem started, really.
As Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, a founding member of the New Patriotic Party there. We're going to hear from Peter McMahon shortly, but let me welcome Dr. Bernard Osei-Tutu, who is a political marketing strategist and a lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba. Dr. Bernard Osei-Tutu, thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. So you hear from the election committee of the party saying that they are going to look into the issues and concerns that Alan Chimantin raised. Then, in one breath, the Deputy General Secretary of the MPP is also dismissing the same concerns that are being looked into by the election committee. How is Alan's withdrawal, all in all, going to impact on the MPP going forward?
Alfred, good evening. Listen, the name is Buahene.
Apologies.
Buahene. All right. So, I think that this issue of Alan's power from the November 4th election, to me, is personal decision that he has taken. Decision that he feels would protect his future in politics as well as future of his followers. As it were, he has indicated certain concerns, and those concerns, to me, the party, if it was given to the party, then probably the party also delayed in coming up with the solution that they should have come up with. But again, I think I heard today, the party has, postponed
The balloting for position for the November primaries, yes.
Exactly. Yeah. That they are going to look into the issues that were raised. If that is the issue, then probably, to me, it has come a bit late. And I believe that, yes, Alan would have probably stayed on now. He should have put up his concern and probably put the party to its goals. As it stands to me, he didn't fight the fight of a politician. I'm not saying that he should wash his dirty linen, in public, but in this context, like, you need to stand up for the purpose to which you have decided to be. And so it was too easy for him to have resigned. I don't side with that decision. And people have indicated that he feels that probably November 4th will not go for him. But that makes it a contest.
But you see, if you look at it as well, that's one side of the argument. The other side of the argument is that he's looked at the issues at play here, the intimidation that he talks about, plus the other concerns that he raised about inducement. And if it's in the case of intimidation and you're coming up against what has been described as the establishment candidate who has the government machinery behind him, would it be prudent for him to still go ahead when all the issues he has raised eventually will go against him? And the campaign, the Alan Kyerematen campaign, is also expressing the view that the party hasn't conducted itself in a way that gives them that confidence that they can actually address the concerns that they have raised. So there's no point going through the contest and into November 4.
The party, that is why I believe that you should have stayed and fight. You see, if you feel that certain things are being skewed against you, fight for your rights and for the rights of your followers. It's not a bargain. You should have done that. No, with the issue of the establishment candidate, politics in itself is an establishment. So the moment you get in there, it's either you align yourself with someone or you brand yourself as an establishment. So in 2008, thereabouts, he was an established candidate because a lot of followers were behind him. And that is where he didn't take advantage of it. He didn't leverage on that establishment, right? Now, coming into 2023, right, if the establishment tables have turned, right, and you still have an established brand in the person of Alan Cash or in the brand name Alan Cash, a brand which had followers in those days at the basic school. In 2023, voters now that you can leverage on. You don't throw away such a brand because the brand has history, the brand has value, the brand has certain law following it. And the share of mind of the Alan brand, not just a simple thing. Like, so for me, you should have been fighting. You should have gone back, in some kind of expertise into his campaign, and then move into November 4th with that kind of vigor and strength. Not just throwing the towel just like that. So what happens to your followers now? What happens to them? What are they going to say? Are they going to regret following you in the first place? Or you feel that going into November 4th, they will be intimidated too much? You don't want that intimidation to come in the first place. So they should all find their way out. I don't think that that was it. And you see, Alfred, the truth be told, the NPP party needs to be set up. That is a fact. Right? For me, two major political parties, NDC and NDC. NDC is done with this. NPP, you are doing well. And you see, for you to leave that isolated legacy, I mean, I saw that it doesn't fit well with the party. Right. You look at the issues that many candidates raise. Then more raise certain concerns. Alan raise certain concerns.
Boache as well.
Yeah, then 4. That makes it 4. Okay. Now, if all these people have raised these concerns, and you wouldn't find it so immediate, you wouldn't have some kind of agency into the matter, and then address the matter before, whatever activity that there is to perform. And then you sit down for people to resign. I saw that the party, is just sleeping. Some people are not really performing their responsibilities within the party, and to me, it's wrong. It's wrong. And the party executives, you take those responsible down and take some sense into their heads.
Right.
For me, it's not. For me, it is wrong, and the party is not living us with any positive legacy that will make us, so that yes, this party has something for us in the future.
Thank you very much. Dr. Tutu Boahen is a political marketing strategist. Appreciate your time here on Hot Edition. And Professor Ransford Jampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon. He says that he predicts other flag bearer hopefuls also pulling out if these concerns by Alan Chimanting are not addressed transparently.
Some of them, it's mixed. Because some really mean the cliche, the idea of breaking the 8, and for some too, you can just deduce from the way and manner they go about the activities that they are not really serious about breaking any 8. And also, I will tell you that for some of them, they are actually parking away, even though they are talking about breaking the 8. Some of them are actually parking. They are parking away, and so. If those who really are interested or they mean business when they talk about breaking the 8, if they truly are there and they mean business of breaking the 8, then they should be concerned that, you see, when the party was together, a party that had all its top echelons together, a party that had all people who had a pedigree to contribute into increasing their electoral fortunes, when they were all together in one party, they couldn't break any 8. If a party that was together could not break any 8, then as for a party that is plagued with schisms and people pulling out of races and people going their own way, the least said about it, the better.
As Professor Ransford Jampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon. But there's some contrasting views on this. And a former national chair of the MPP, Peter McMenu, has also welcomed the decision by Alan Chimantin to withdraw from the flag bearer race. He says the withdrawal would not impact the party's fortunes, unlike what has been strongly argued by Professor, that's Lord Mensah and the others who have also made this particular claim. Take a look.
If Mr. Alan Chimantin, in his personal view and capacity, has decided to opt out, we thank him, and it's his personal decision, and I congratulate him for that. And all decisions that were sent to the Presidential Election Committee are ultimately decided upon by the second highest authority in the party, which is the National Council. And the National Council must always take the well-being of the party. So if National Council makes a decision, who am I to question the validity or otherwise of their decision? Because it's a constitutional component that's in the absence of National Conference or National Congress. It is the National Council, which is the number 2 authority in the party.
But will his withdrawal affect the fortunes of...
I can't tell. I'm not a soothsayer. But let me tell you, Margaret Thatcher, popularly known as Iron Lady, said that 1 week into an election is a long time. And we have 1 year and some months.
That's Peter McMenu there. Now, there's a lot that's happening with this decision by Alan Chimantin to withdraw from the MPP's flag bearer race. Now, we're monitoring some information coming through that in the coming days, he is going to detail his next step in Ghana politics. That's a strong indication that we are getting. In fact, our sources close to the Alan Chimantin campaign team also indicating that he's being impressed upon not to announce his decision to go as an independent candidate into the 2024 general elections. And that is a strong indication that we're getting. So stay with us here on Hot Edition. This is something that we'll get a lot more into in the coming days. But the National Democratic Congress is demanding from the Electoral Commission the names and pictures of the electoral officers deployed for the upcoming limited voter registration exercise. Flag bearer of the party, John Mahama, says this is key to ensuring transparency and curb any inconvenience. The Electoral Commission will open the voters register on September 12, which is some 6 days away, to October 2nd for the registration of new voters ahead of the district level elections slated for December 19, 2023. The electoral body is aiming to register some 1.3 million new voters. The exercise, according to the EC, will take place only at district offices across the country, to the displeasure of some political parties who are demanding that it be done otherwise. John Mahama is the flag bearer of the NDC for the 2024 general elections and the former president. In a televised address earlier today, also implored on the Electoral Commission to consider the concerns raised by not just the NDC, but other political parties about the decision to only have the district offices across the country be the place where the registration will be taking place. Take a listen.
Registration exercise by the Electoral Commission is therefore an opportunity to start the process towards making your voices heard and shaping the future of our dear country, Ghana. Your vote in 2024 will symbolize your desire for a better Ghana, a determination to overcome the challenges we face, and your commitment to help build the Ghana we want together. A Ghana that guarantees you, your children, your siblings, and our unborn generations a brighter, sustainable future with well-paying jobs. But that will only happen when you acquire a voter's ID card and cast your vote for the NDC in that crucial election on December 7th, 2024. I wish to add my voice to those who have called on the EC to reconsider its decision to restrict the registration exercise to its district offices only. Acquiring a voter ID card affirms one's right to vote, and access to a voter ID card should be easy and not limited by location. Every Ghanaian deserves the chance to exercise this democratic right. I strongly urge the Electoral Commission to facilitate the registration exercise in all its electoral areas to allow for easy access and a reduced burden on the citizenry in their quest to register. I challenge the Commission to be more transparent with the processes preceding the start of the limited voter registration exercise, the replacement of voter ID cards, and the transfer of votes.
Also, on the issue of identification, John Mahama says the Electoral Commission must consider the concerns raised going forward to ensure a free, fair, and transparent election in 2024.
As has been requested in a formal letter to the Commission by the General Secretary of the NDC, we want to know when the names and pictures of the registration supervisors, registration officers, registration assistants, and other officials for the exercise will be published at the district level as stipulated by the EC regulations. We've also requested information on the exact number and distribution of workstations, registration kits, and other logistics to be used in the exercise. It is also our very strong recommendation that in line with Regulation 22B of CI 91, as amended by CI 126, the Commission listens to the call for the extension of the exercise to take place in the electoral areas and not limited to the district offices of the Commission.
As the flag bearer of the NDC for the 2024 general elections, John Dramani Mahama there. Let's cross over to Nigeria as we spread our tentacles beyond the borders of this country. Nigeria's Presidential Election Tribunal earlier today has rejected an opposition challenge to Bola Tinubu's win in February's disputed vote, following a pattern seen in previous election years in Africa's most populous country. No legal challenge to the outcome of a presidential election has succeeded in Nigeria, which returned to democracy in 1999 after 3 decades of almost uninterrupted military rule and has a history of electoral fraud. Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party and Peter Obi of the Labour Party, who came second and third respectively, had asked the court to invalidate the election results, alleging irregularities. Judge Haruna Chamani reading out a lengthy ruling not too long ago, just about some 30 minutes ago, on behalf of the tribunal's panel of 5 justices, rejected Peter Obi's petition point by point. He was reading Atiku's petition, which was also expected to be dismissed, and that's why we're going to cross over to Nigeria now, specifically Lagos, where Abdul Latif Ahmed, who is the head of research and digital at News Central TV, one of the top television stations in Lagos, Nigeria, joining us on Zoom. Abdul Latif, thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. So what's the conclusion? That is, if Judge Haruna Chamani has finished reading the Atiku's petition, has there been any specific ruling on that one as well?
So far from the judgments that have been read, it is clear that the points on which the opposition relied on to disqualify President Bola Ahmed Tinubu are mostly frivolous and points that are not substantiated. Because most times when people lose elections, they do not agree that they have lost the election. But what is clear is that the opposition has not been able to prove that there was substantial malpractice or electoral fraud that is sufficient enough to invalidate the results of the winner. And we would have seen it from the judge's response to Labour Party, who they seem to be one of the loudest in the country in terms of social media engagements, online presence, and all of that. Earlier in the run-up to the election, I had sounded that it is almost unthinkable that a winner will emerge from a party where you have You have over 30,000 polling units that have not been covered. By that, they had no party agent to monitor the election in over 30,000 polling units. It's almost unthinkable that anybody will win election with such. The reliance on IREV, which is more like an electronic transfer of information on what has happened on ground, is still not sufficient because, yes, electronic transmission will happen, but how do you prove to us that what happened, on ground is you are comfortable with that because you were not there in the first place? So by the end of the rulings, I'm sure it's almost a given. We know from what we have so far that there's nothing major that will happen, in the ruling. Essentially, it means that Bola Ahmed Tinubu won the election fair and square, in spite of the ramblings from those who are disenchanted about the outcomes.
Okay, so, but how about the general Nigerian populace as well, watching the tribunal today and the outcome so far? How has the reaction been?
Yeah, as should be expected, a lot of Nigerians who support the ruling party are excited and jubilating. Some have started parties in their own little ways, but the general mood of the country is that there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of economic pain, so people are just, a lot of people are not really bothered. And in fact, a lot of people were almost sure that the outcomes would be like this. There's a difference between the social media buzz and what you have on the streets. People on the streets know that this is what they voted for, and they are not surprised by the outcome of the election. Most times I try to make it a lot of people understand that it is not the volume of noise that determines who has won or who has lost. The concrete evidence on ground, from the feelers that we got from people who covered the elections, just proves that the president won the election. Yes, there were malpractices in some places, but they were not substantial enough. They were not sufficient to invalidate the overall results of the election.
But then you make the point earlier that a number of the people were expecting that this was going to be the outcome. Your country, Nigeria, has a history of these election petitions, is it not? This is really not the first time, and so there's already some precedents that has been established that no election petition has actually succeeded. So this was just going to be one of many.
Well, the election petitions will only succeed if there is evidence that those who are petitioning have done their homework. I mean, like I cited, you will not go into an election that is all important without covering your base. The base are the 774 local governments. You have some of these opposition parties that have no presence in some states. They have no representatives in some polling units. How exactly do you begin to blame the system for your own inadequacy? Because there's a popular support for Peter Obi, for example, across Nigeria, but the popularity did not translate into votes. We wanted people to come out and vote for, all that they are saying about him, but we didn't see that happen at the polls. So what it means is that a lot of people were more comfortable just talking about it as against going to vote for, their preferred candidate. So yes, we have had electoral malpractices in the past. We've had cases like this in the past. But because the electronic system, the BVAS has been introduced, the IREV has been introduced, you cannot undo what the electronic transfer does. So what it means is that on their own part, they should have had the physical copies of the entire process, because the form EC8A and EC8B and C are there for electoral for parties to hold on to. But a lot, the Labour Party didn't have a lot of these things because they were not physically there. And so there was a lot that was being put out there that made it look like, yes, there was, large scale, electoral malpractices and all of that. But I mean, it is like having an all-important final football match, in say the World Cup, and you do not have, your men right in the right position. You cannot, begin to contest, how you lost in the first place.
Abdul Latif, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition. Abdul Latif Ahmed is head of research and digital at News Central TV, connecting with us from Lagos. We're monitoring how this entire tribunal ruling will end because, as we speak, Judge Haruna Chamani, one of the 5 justices sitting on this case, is reading the ruling on Atiku Abubakar's petition, and it would be done shortly. So we'll let you know. It's time for business. Naneka Mensa Brampa is here. What's the latest?
Right, so we have that conversation about the cylinder recirculation model and fears of job losses. Well, an analyst has also raised the same of job losses, and the GRA is still on its enforcement. This time around, they said you'll be prosecuted, you face the law if you are found culpable. So we have that and more. Some details also coming in from the climate summit in Kenya. Let's settle for the details. An analyst, that is an energy policy analyst with Eureka Energy Solutions, says there will be job losses following the implementation of the cylinder recirculation module. Rafik Jawula has noted the regulator, National Petroleum Authority, needs to engage more stakeholders in order to fine-tune the policy.
Assuming an LPG filling station is categorized into, let's say, a high-risk station, what it means is that the investments that they have made is going to be set aside, and they would only be reduced to just exchanging, cylinders. This is going to hit their business very hard, and there's the potential that those who are involved in that business may lose their jobs. But the NPA have also indicated that the expansion of the value chain, means that more and more people would be involved in, work-related activities. But then even they haven't really given us specifics with regards to how many people the policy can employ and all of that.
And that was Rafik Jawula, an energy policy analyst with Eureka Energy. The Ghana Revenue Authority says it is unrelenting in its efforts to ensure businesses comply with the issuance of VAT in their operations. The authority has been on an enforcement exercise since the introduction of its electronic value added tax, that is the EVAT system. Commissioner General of the GRA, Dr. Amishadai Usuamwa, says his outfit will continue to ensure compliance in order to raise the needed revenue for government.
I think that is something that I want to take the opportunity to let Ghanaians know that we'll continue consistently. Since we started the exercise last year, we have seen that early part of the first quarter was 92%. In June, July, we were trying to review the process. As we were reviewing the process and we're not going out, we saw the numbers going down. And we have resumed again. And want to let everyone who sells a service or provide a service or any that, we have what we call mystery shoppers or test purchases. In other words, we have given monies to people like you who are coming to their shops, who are coming to their restaurants, who are coming to their hotels. And if you issue a receipt that is not a VAT receipt, in the next moment or in the next day, you will see people coming to your shop. So let all Ghanaians know that the next customer who will enter your shop may be a mystery purchaser or a test purchaser. And it is important that we are all become compliant so that we will get the revenues for our nation.
Commissioner General of the GRA, Dr. Amishadai Usuamwa. Just before we go, President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akiwumi Adesina, says the bank is currently investing up to $20 billion into solar energy in the Sahara Desert to generate power for up to 250 million people on the continent. The AFDB, which has been instrumental in providing funding for the continent's climate fight, says the investment will prove critical in elevating African economies, and he was speaking at the ongoing Africa Climate Summit.
Africa must develop with what it has, not what it does not have. Africa is blessed with large sources of renewable energy in the world. Renewables from solar, hydro, wind, and geothermal. But we cannot power Africa with potential. We must fully unlock Africa's renewable energy potential. That's why the African Development Bank is implementing $20 billion Desert to Power program to harness the power of solar and deliver electricity for 250 million people. We must power every home, every school, every hospital, and provide stable, affordable, and reliable power. But we must, Your Excellencies, be pragmatic. Africa must use its natural gas and combine it with renewable resources.
Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of the African Development Bank, ending it for Business on Hot Edition. Remember, when you log on to 3news.com, we have more business news updates. My name is Nana Ikuya Mensa Abrampa, and Billy Shen is standing by with the latest in the world of sports. Bill?
Thank you, Nana Ikuya. It's time for sports here on a Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Bill Ishen. And of course, we start off from the Black Stars because head coach Chris Hughton has stated that he would do everything possible to get the right result for Ghana as he faces the Central African Republic in the 2023 AFCON qualifiers tomorrow. Ghana are currently on top of Group E with 9 points in total.
We will do everything that we can to get the result that we want to get. So preparation has been good, as with all international camps. Sometimes you miss players through injuries, and of course we are missing some through injuries, but it's always an opportunity for others. We are playing at home, we have a good record here, and it's a record that we want to continue.
It's a record that he wants to continue. That was Chris Hughton, the head coach of the Black Stars. Now, KRC Genk winger Joseph Pencil has been granted permission by the Black Stars technical team to return to Belgium after sustaining an injury against Anderlecht last weekend. He's expected to be replaced by Abdul Fattah Ishahaku in the squad for the game. Now, Central African Republic coach Raoul Savoy confessed that Ghana is a bigger footballing nation as compared to his country, but does not want to concede defeat on Thursday.
I have a full respect of Ghana. Of course, they are far better than us as a nation, as a football nation, as a team. But, football, it's, I think, the most glorious game in the world because anytime, every day, you have surprises in each country, in each competitions. That's why it's not about confidence. It's about, first, I respect the opponents, but I do look confident to push my players to be the best tomorrow.
Now, still on the Black Stars, the Three Sports team took to the streets earlier today to ask fans about Andre Ayew. And the question was, should he start against the Central African Republic tomorrow? Let's listen to the answers they gave.
Black Stars versus Central African Republic. Should the day Ayew start that game or not?
No.
Why?
You sound too much, so Charlie.
For long, I'm going to say, what kick ball, we need to. The other things said, as I said, pull up with or I'm a friend. It's good that he has been giving the call up, he shouldn't start. They are you supposed to start, or the day are you have morale for the Black Star period. If he starts, you are going to win it.
As he starts, he doesn't have a team. We all know what he can prove, but he doesn't have a team. So long as someone with you were able to judge someone by that same color, then you also need to be judged by that.
Andre Ayew should not start because the brother will start.
Some interesting answers there from the fans with regards to Andre Ayew, the captain of the Black Stars. But before I do go, the nominees for the Ballon d'Or in respect to some categories have already been released. One is the Yassim Trophy for the best goalkeeper on the planet. And the likes of Andre Onana, Yassin Bonu, and Edison and others joined in the Copa Trophy. Pedri, Camavinga, Bellingham and the rest are also in there. And also for the Women's Footballer of the Year, of course, Linda Caicedo and other women also joined in. That's it for the sports here on the Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Billy Shen. And entertainment, Anita Kufu is standing by. Stay tuned.
All All right, so you're welcome to the entertainment news segment on Hot Edition. My name is Anita Ikia Ikufu, and the CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Akwesi Agyemang, has disclosed that the GTA is working closely with the Cape Coast Traditional Council and Assembly to furnish the Professor Atamil's library with photos and reading materials and subsequently build a museum in his memory. Speaking to 3 Entertainment's Owusu Orai, Akwesi Agyemang assured that the GTA is committed to improving upon tourism product offerings in the central region and across the country.
There's room for improvement in terms of the offerings that the city has. Last time we were here, we were shown a cemetery, military cemetery, which nobody knows about. So we are working with the Traditional Council and the Assembly to unearth that. Currently, we are working on the Professor Atamil's library, where there's going to be some of his materials, and also we are trying to put up a museum in memory of him and also some of our former presidents. And so I think we need to improve upon the offerings that we have, try and bring more things here. So we've been sitting there watching and also having thoughts about how we can improve upon the product offerings and make sure that more people are coming to this area, more people are patronizing the hotels, the restaurants, the bars, bring economic activity to the metropolis, and then people can make some decent living for themselves.
And still in entertainment, award-winning disc jockey Kofi Amwakon, popularly known as DJ Varosky, says the blame game has been a major setback in our music space. Speaking exclusively to 3 Entertainment, he mentioned that Ghanaian DJs are doing their best and are not to blame. King Kong. More often than not, Ghanaian DJs have been heavily criticized as being the cause of the low interest in Ghanaian music. Most people have argued that some DJs in Ghana put Nigerian songs on heavy rotation as compared to the Ghanaian songs. However, multiple award-winning disc jockey DJ Varosky thinks DJs are not to blame.
And I think it's very, 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 very false. Nightclubs and in the pubs and the events, and you hear a lot of Nigerian music, right? Simple question. There's no DJ on Apple Music, is there? Now, when you go on Apple Music, the first 20 songs are Nigerian songs. So is it a DJ contributing to people listening to Nigerian music on Apple Music? I think the DJs are doing their part. The thing is, the reason why we are suffering is the blame game. Everybody's looking for who to blame, right? We all have to accept the fact that with the slack, like I always say, we are comfortable number 2. When we slack, we will lose them and we'll be number 3 or number 4. You get it? So
in recent times, comparisons between artists from Ghana and Nigeria have heavily dominated several conversations on both traditional and social media. Varosky believes the odds are favoring the Nigerians, adding that all the energy should be channeled into promoting our own.
To say that what we do on radio with the comparison actually helps promote the Nigerians more. You get it? Like, because you are talking about them. Like, the person who doesn't even know that maybe Ashake has done something, watching you on TV now knows there's something like that. So you are helping promote them even more. So now let's come together and stop the comparison and stop saying we are playing more Nigerian music than Ghana music and just push our own. Like, just come together and push our own. I think with the comparison, it's not going to stop. Even in the Nigerian industry, there's Davido, Wizkid comparison every day. Like, it's part of our life.
And to our final story this evening, it was the biggest gathering of everything beauty at the 2023 edition of Hips Africa, the Gold Edition. The 3-day event was packed with masterclasses, fashion shows, and a networking opportunity for all beauty brands.
Have you ever thought of a fair that is just about beauty, that brings different aspects of beauty together in one space? That is why we're here at the Hips Africa 2023. And this year, the theme is the Gold Edition, basically celebrating, the amazing CEOs working tirelessly to bring beauty to that point. And definitely, the kind of contribution that beauty makes to the economy and to the creative art space. And so today, if you're at home, if you're watching this, you might have missed the Hips Africa 2023, but we're definitely here to give you all the highlights. So let's go inside, speak to some vendors, and show you what you missed.
And that's all for entertainment. For more entertainment stories and updates, do follow us on our social media handles. It is 3 Entertainment.
What's Clifford doing?
I know, right? He's always taking videos of us.
Can you imagine?
He enjoys it.
I need to have a good one.
All right.
And you can find more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. And also the drive continues with Giovanni, AG, and DJ Faculty. I am Alfred Ocansey. Join me at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight. Have a great evening.